was underwhelming, unrememberable. Look, it wasn't. There was a worthy champion who was crowned last night, the Seattle Seahawks. I think we can give credit where it's due and tip our cap to them for the dominant performance. At one point, it's 19-0, but even when, I know this sounds ridiculous, but even when it got to 9-0, the way the Patriots were not moving the ball and unable to not only just protect the four-man front from Seattle, but also solve things like the inside blitz with Devon Witherspoon, the defensive back, and some of the other creative pressures from Mike McDonald, it became obvious that Seattle, I know they scored some touchdowns in late third quarter and in the fourth quarter, but it almost seemed like they would have been content just kicking field goals and just saying, "Hey, New England, we dare you to go down the field and be able to get score a couple of times."
I was going to shout my brother Josh, who he his bet of the game was he had Seattle to score in all four quarters, and it cashed.
It did better than mine for Demario.
Shout out to Josh.
So my Demario Douglas to score a touchdown, 7.5-1, obviously didn't happen. Like, I honestly didn't even think New England was going to score a touchdown. Like, it got to the point where I'm like, this bet is dead because this isn't going to happen. The matchup itself, I would just say it kind of met people's expectations. Maybe I'm off, Trey, but it never felt like there was a lot of hype going into this Super Bowl. I know the story of Sam Darnold resurrecting himself is great, but how many people have fled New York and then found a good home somewhere else and been able to succeed? Like, it seems like it's kind of the thing du jour. Go to New York, deal with the overbearing fans and media, and we must win now. We have no patience for anything mindset. And then when they actually marinate and we'll go somewhere else and then have a chance to marinate, you can perform well. And ironically, because Sam Darnold didn't even do much last night. Like, he wasn't all that accurate, but it became obvious that when that was the case, just run the ball with Kenneth Walker, wear down New England, and dare them to be able to stop. So the matchup itself did not deliver in terms of an excitement level. Seattle, worthy champion. Best team over the course of the NFL season, particularly down the stretch. We can all safely mention that. But sometimes you're going to have that. And then in and of itself, a lot of the entertainment aspects around the Super Bowl, I thought left something to be desired. Like, I think there's a portion of people that might have been able to get into the Bad Bunny halftime show a little bit more if there was some kind of explainer of what exactly was going on. And I know some of it, obviously, is not family friendly in terms of the dancing and the way all that unfolded. I get that. But in terms of some of the other messages, like, I know they had the interracial marriage that took place, and apparently that was a legitimate marriage. I think that part is great. I think the Hispanic lady and the Caucasian male.
Oh, you're talking about the Bad Bunny performance. Yeah, that was a legit, because they invited Bad Bunny to their wedding, and Bad Bunny was like, "I'll come. How about we just do it at the Super Bowl?"
Yeah, which, by the way, kudos to a celebrity for wanting to find a way to, connect with super fans of his. I got some friends of mine who are big Bad Bunny fans. Shout out to Alex and in his family, friends of ours are in the fast lane and fans of ours. But I look at this and just go, for the casual person, there could have been a little bit more done to explain Bad Bunny. I know he gained popularity, but you don't really hear him on the radio, when I'm channel surfing, which, again, to get my usher on for a second in the fast lane, I kind of have to do, because...
Do you listen to pop music?
I know, not a ton.
Okay.
Because comparable stations to...
But he is the most streamed listener on Spotify.
Yeah, and I know there's a huge international appeal and a younger appeal to the Bad Bunny mindset. Huh. You think Bad Bunny is a lot better than Bad Boy Entertainment, Puff Daddy.
Elmo loved it and called him a good bunny. He wanted to call him Good Bunny from now on.
Yeah,
well, Elmo.
Our kids love Sesame Street as much as anybody's. But there could have been a level of explanation for it. Oddly enough, I don't even think all the best of the Bad Bunny songs were performed. I thought it was good, but it wasn't spectacular for me.
It told a story. I thought it was like more of a, like, instead of a concert, it was like more of a story he told, because I did like all the jokes, because he had good ball security, all the jokes about how he ran for more yards in his halftime show than the Patriots. That I do love.
I give him credit because he's quick-witted in terms of his performance. I will tip my cap in that regard. But I came out of this Super Bowl going, if you didn't go to, shout out to our friend Pastor our Jefferson Forest Cavalier football presented by TrostLaw.com analyst Rick Kennedy. If you did not go to their grand opening celebration Sunday, which was the service yesterday and then the Super Bowl afterwards, and again, I did not. My family, we have our church. We're very pleased with it, but we love Impact Church as well because Pastor Rick and Pastor Brad and Pastor Tim are friends of ours in the fast lane. But if you were not there fellowshipping with the Impact Church community during the Super Bowl, it probably will not go down as one where you go, man, that was epic. I really remember it. It wasn't bad, but there was nothing that really stood out in terms of the wow moment from the Super Bowl. Maybe you disagree. Let us know. Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And of course, if you missed anything, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, however you listen to podcasts. Over the weekend itself, college basketball action. We'll get to that in just a moment. But there's one way that you can remember, and there's one singing performance that you can remember for the best reason. Because at InsaneRadioDeals.com, it's time to let it go, let it go. Watch Trey, if you're watching in the VTR and Sports app, plug his ears, because he literally just did that. We are letting go of items with 32% off the list price of every item. In honor of Frozen, you probably want it to be above 32%, 32 degrees, for an eternity. And by the way, it's supposed to be in the 50s the next couple days. So praise God for that. Get some of this ice and snow and slush and nastiness melted away. I'd love to have my sidewalks back so I don't have to just run in the streets. But anyway, back to the task at hand. InsaneRadioDeals.com. Enter the promo code FROZEN at checkout through March 2nd, 3/2, to get 32% off the list price of every item, like new Yamada Japanese of Forest, the Yard on 5th Street, one of TJ's favorite spots, Oliver's on Rivermont and 801 Raw Bar. My wife and I ate there a couple of weeks ago. Great food. We blended the Oliver's menu with the 801 Raw Bar menu, and the raw oysters. We're fans of them. We love them as well. You can get gift certificates to all those places and so many more experiences, including a new cute little restaurant that might be coming soon there to InsaneRadioDeals.com. Just keep an eye out for it. All at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Now, an elongated version of the Fast Five at Five-ish to go over what you might have seen this past weekend or heard on the VTR and Sports app in the Fast Five at Five-ish.
It's time for Fast Five at Five-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kinda ish. Let's start with number 5.
Court rushing. Here it is. Court storming and field rushing. It's back in the spotlight once again. And here's the shocker of all shockers. It is a Duke Blue Devil who is upset about this. Coach K was on his pious high horse throughout the last 10 years of being the coach at Duke. But in his defense, he's not the only one who has brought this up. And in his defense, there is a concern of safety. The number one reason why this is now in the spotlight is what you may have heard on the VTR and Sports app, your home for fantastic play-by-play, including, by the way, the number one team in the country tonight, Arizona. Will they remain unbeaten? They are at Kansas. That's part of our doubleheader tonight, 8 p.m. airtime, VTR and Sports app, and 93.3 FM. But the court rushing situation has gotten to the point where the behavior has gotten worse around court rushing and field storming in college football. There are a number of reasons why, but here's Jon Scheyer after the loss. I thought he handled this as well as you could have reasonably expected.
Any questions about the game? For me, it's hard to talk about the game when I was most concerned just for the safety of our players after the game. Like, I don't want to make it about that because Carolina, they played a great game to win, and that's a heartbreaking loss for our team. I got staff members that got punched in the face. My family pushing people away, trying to not get trampled. And that's not what this game is about. And you give them all the credit in the world. It's not about the game. But obviously that was a scary ending. And this rivalry is not about that. As far as the game itself.
And then after we get my initial statement out of the way, as far as the game itself, in Jon Scheyer's defense, it was a concern. If you were listening to the broadcast on the VTR and Sports app, as I was playing with my kids, who, by the way, behaved very well over on Saturday against in Liberty, Missouri State. More on that in a moment. Robert Horry brought this up. because he was part of the Alabama-Auburn basketball, not football. But the old Alabama-Auburn rivalry, not on the same basketball as Duke Carolina, but there's a right way to handle this. Here's my big thing on why court storming, and there need to be harsher penalties for it. Because number one, the safety and welfare of everybody's in jeopardy. But two, we live now in a more charged society on two fronts. One of them being social media. People have access to spew, fulfill, and build up their level of disdain for somebody and then carry it over to them in person. And let's be real here. There are two parts to why that is easier to do. One, mob mentality. When there are a bunch of people around, you feel like you can get away with it and then disappear, and you can target someone and they don't know who's coming for you. But the other element to this is alcohol consumption. These venues are all selling alcohol. And again, from a business standpoint, I understand why they are. Because it's an avenue to make additional
dollar bills, y'all.
And when that is what you need now, and let's be real, in the American society, I mean, we practically worship at the altar of
dollar bills, y'all.
Then we'll do anything for money. So if you're going to do that, you've got to protect your players if you're going to sell out and sell alcohol at your venues. And again, this is the point of the punishment is to prevent you from committing the crime coming out. But I'm largely of the camp that if you really want to crack down on this, start threatening to forfeit victories. It may sound harsh, sure, but I use it as the analogy that I use when, like, theft. I think in America, if you get convicted of theft, I don't care whether you're a junkie, whether you just are a kleptomaniac or some other reason you think it's funny and you want to try it, cut your hand off. I had a friend of mine, furniture sales, told me one of the big things for him is he went and sold over in the Middle East. He left his phone, his wallet, his keys, everything right out on the table and went right into the bathroom and never worried about it. And everybody else would generally do that as well. You know why? Because in those countries over there, hand gets cut off. Well, I think the same theory should be applied in certain instances to America. Make the punishment stern enough that it prevents you from committing the crime. You don't want your team to lose the basketball game that you just won in epic fashion, whether it's a big-time upset or a buzzer beater like we saw or heard this past Saturday at Carolina. Then make the punishment if you storm the court within the first 2 minutes of the game being over, your team has to forfeit the victory. Game over, clock goes up. It's a 2-minute warning, just like we do with my kids. I mean, people are acting like 7-year-olds anyway, so might as well do that. Hey, have the 2-minute warning. And after that, the players, coaches, and the staff members can hopefully have all vacated the floor, and you can go celebrate with your team. I'm not anti it, but we got to come up with a better solution now than what we have seen previously. Meanwhile,
Number 4.
college basketball, girls basketball, women's basketball over the weekend. 3 things to note out of this. Virginia Tech lost 2 games in a row. The Notre Dame loss is the more disappointing loss. But the NC State loss also brought its level of concerns for the Hokies. One of them is on the micro. It's the fact that what happened when Virginia Tech at one point was up 17-10, and the next thing you know, it's 42-25 NC State with the lead. A 32-8 run that spans the end of the first quarter and pretty much the entire second quarter. And here's what Megan Duffy had to say as far as how that happened.
Megan, in that pivotal second quarter, what about their defense and offense made them tough to deal with in that quarter?
Yeah, I mean, the run was fast and quick, and I mean, they went downhill, they went one-on-one. I think the thing is they don't run a ton of complicated stuff, but they're very good at what they do. So the quick ball screens, the one-on-one attacks, that run was huge, and I thought we were back on our heels too much instead of being the aggressor in that moment and different moments throughout the game.
NC State got out and ran. Virginia Tech never seemed to have an answer for it. And the Wolfpack, I mean, give Coach Miller credit, but when they turned on the spigot or turned up the intensity, Virginia Tech just never seemingly had an answer in that. You could hear the agony in the voice of the great Evan Hughes, who was a guest, by the way, on the morning warm-up late last week. And you can listen to that, the morning warm-up, wherever you listen to podcasts, because
and guess what? We keep receipts.
Right there, or the VTR and Sports Facebook and YouTube pages where we stream our shows too. But for Virginia Tech, when NC State kicked it up a notch, Virginia Tech just did not match with the right level of defensive intensity.
Disappointed with our defense this afternoon. We knew that we probably had to have our best defensive effort of the season. NC State has 5 elite level players who can score at a pretty high clip, and I thought we were a step slow on our scout and just had too many breakdowns. I thought we had some good moments throughout the game as it went on, but overall not enough defensively to stop their really the big three.
No, there really wasn't a lot from the Virginia Tech Lady Hokies in terms of the ability to get the stops necessary on the defensive end to make this game more competitive than you would have liked to be for Virginia Tech. Meanwhile, speaking of Virginia Tech and other disappointments,
Number 3.
Virginia Tech and NC State in basketball. Every time Virginia Tech looked like they were making a run and clawing their way back into this, the Wolfpack answered right back. And it was the ultimate confounding thing. And credit to our very own TJ Wilkerson, who was our boots on the ground, present on press row. Shout out to Candy Waller with president on the press box. But present on press row for the NC State Virginia Tech game down in Raleigh this weekend. Because every time Virginia Tech had a run, they could not sustain the defensive level of intensity that enabled them to make that run. And it went from being multiple times kind of a 3 to 4 point game back to a 10 to 11 point game.
This isn't a criticism. They're going to play the way they play. All right. I say this with admiration. They play the way they're going to play. No agenda here. They will give you the opportunity to get back. All right. They'll also punch you again if you don't take advantage of those opportunities. So we were able to cut it back to 3. We did some nice things. We had a couple of second chance baskets. Shoot got one down opposite our bench, but you got to keep it going. And it was Hallman that got one down. I think it was opposite their bench that hurt us, and we had a hard time recovering from there.
Yeah, I mean, Virginia Tech did. Every time they made a run, NC State answered right there, and it's really hard. It requires a different level of stamina and sharpness and mental focus, but it's disappointing for Virginia Tech given the level of intensity they have. And now you get the impression that the Lady Hokies and the men's team in Blacksburg are both, they're not far out of the NCAA tournament, but if it started today, you kind of get the impression they'd be on that first 4 out as opposed to more comfortably in and missing opportunities to solidify their status. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Commonwealth, the team that clearly has solidified their status,
Number 2.
the Virginia Cavaliers. It was kind of nip and tuck early against Syracuse, but in the early second half, it went from a 3-point game at halftime to where it kind of fluctuated between that 5 and 8 point mark. And you just felt like Virginia was close enough to breaking the game open. They never could quite get it to the upper teens to 20. They won by 13, by the way, if you're a betting person. It opened up as a 12-point favorite. It closed as a 13-point favorite. That's how #Vegas knows, but also get the best of the number if that's your thing. It's not mine, college basketball, but these things can be pretty sharp. They often know what they're doing, which is why we encourage you, if that's your thing, you got to be very smart and responsible about it because that's an example of it. But for Virginia, the way they finished this game was so noteworthy because they got better, and that has been a common thread for the Cavaliers. These games have been tighter early, but when they've been at their best, unlike North Carolina, they generally have found a way to improve over the second half of games. We talked on it last week after the Boston College game where they were kind of sluggish in the early going in BC, but they ultimately just drove to the rack, made adjustments. They did the same thing against Syracuse, and Ryan Odom praised the way that the Hoos finished the game.
Proud of the way our guys finished it down the stretch there of the game. They executed well. We defended well enough and came up with key rebounds in order to finish the game off. But key to the game for us was just the hustle plays, that one little stretch, where Chance steals the inbounds, and we got a little bit of a run. Sam makes the 3, and we were off and running there. But hard to get to 20. Proud of the guys that they're at 20 wins right now, and a lot of ball to be played. Going forward and improving that we've got to do.
But they look like a team that has gotten better as the season's gone on, as you would expect. Teams are going to be different versions later, especially in this day and age where the rosters are cobbled together and, it's a year-to-year deal. But for Virginia, they have gotten better over the course of the season and especially over the course of games. And that's the thing you like if you're a Virginia Cavalier fan is the second half adjustments indicate this is a coaching staff that's willing to make tactical and schematic and player personnel adjustments relative to their personnel, and it is borne out in victories for them. Meanwhile, the other side, big leads but struggling to hold them.
Number 1.
The Liberty Flames over at
Go home, the Bel Air.
they had a 20-point lead themselves, and it ended up being a very late hold-your-breath victory, 79-76 against Missouri State. We'll get into the bigger part for the Flames and the challenges for it, but first of all, the lack of panic that people have of the Liberty Flames. I would understand that if it's a younger team, or, and this may be the case in a lot of years, a more transfer-heavy team where you're learning the competitive character of your players. I'm not talking about character as far as good people. I'm talking competitive character of your players. But there's such a level of trust, particularly with Porter, Matheny, and Cleveland, between those three and McKay, that you get the players understand it. As Colin Porter mentioned, you're glad to have the win, but you're not the best version of yourself.
I think it's just a fun atmosphere in Conference USA basketball, especially doing it at home. We got a lot of things that we can still clean up, which makes it, fun for us, knowing that we're not the best version of ourselves yet, but that's okay, and we're a work in progress.
Yeah, and part of it is also this. I mean, again, Richie McKay mentioned there's a level of trust. I'm going to hold off on my real hot take on the Liberty Flames till later in the week, but you keep messing with fire, it's going to burn you. I'd rather it happen in the regular season. I'll just short version on that. But for the Flames, when you're in these tight spots, there is still a level of trust. It wasn't pretty at the free throw line. Colin Porter missed a couple, but he made up for it. He had a big steal with 7 seconds left in the game that got the Flames the ball back. He only made 1 of 2 free throws, but it helped them get a more comfortable spot and ultimately hold on for a victory. And Coach McKay all along knew that there was a level of trust in a guy like Colin Porter that he could impact the Flames beyond the stat sheet, where it was kind of okay, 7 of 10 free throw shooting for 10 points.
I'm just used to that. If you've been around here long enough to know, I say he's as unheralded as a point guard as there is in America. And he just does so many little things and will always sacrifice. He's a true point guard. He always sacrificed for hours. But the steal at the, 7-second mark, I think, that was big time. That was just straight toughness.
I don't want to, if I'm a Liberty fan, go through more of these 15 to 20 point leads that whittle away. Like, it is a concern that should be, it's understandable the fans feel concern and frustration for that. But I would say it is possible that this team is just built different than what you'll see, frankly, in maybe even in Liberty going forward, but certainly in college basketball. And the ability to have a level of trust to where the coaches trust the players, but also the players feel that level of trust, like Colin Porter said he felt, which is how he felt like he was still able to be relaxed and locked in late against Missouri State.
Especially whenever you have a coach who trusts you, it allows you to, go and try to get the ball and go shoot the free throws regardless of the outcome. We do it all the time in practice, game situations. So, we've shot thousands upon thousands of free throws, and just, whenever Zach was taking the ball out and just being able to him to find me is really key to just how we're going to close that game.
Yeah, I mean, look, Liberty understands that, and there is a level of inherent chemistry because of that. More on the Flames tomorrow in the Fast Lane. Good Lord willing, John Manson of SeaofRed.com will stop by with us. But when we return, other teams and topics. We got to blitz through it in covering the Commonwealth. We add another element because it's Speed Weeks, so we add that to covering the Commonwealth when we return here in the Fast Lane.
Terry Volkswagen, get ready to fall head over heels for the perfect VW SUV. One size doesn't fit all, though, and that's why Volkswagen has an SUV for everyone. From the compact and affordable Volkswagen Taos to the tech-packed Tiguan and the spacious Volkswagen Atlas. No matter which one fits your lifestyle, you'll love the comfort, performance, and safety. Stop by Terry Volkswagen on Forest Road in Lynchburg or check us out online at terryvw.com. Terry Volkswagen. You'll love our cars.
Have you been hit by the winter doldrums? Are you itching for a place with more than a couple hours of daylight? Start your journey to a warm weather escape with us. Scuba classes are forming right now at Aquatrek Adventures. We can have you ready for a warm, relaxing excursion to a sunny tropical destination, including our spring getaway to sunny Florida. Take the first step. Call Aquatrek Adventures on Mill Lane in Salem and visit our website at aquatrekadventures.com to sign up for the certification or your trip.
What do high-performing athletes have in common? They don't just train their bodies, they train their minds. The best competitors have a strong mental support system that keeps them focused, confident, and at the top of their game. Want that same support in your own life? Central Virginia Counseling can help. No matter what life throws your way, our team is here for you with 2 Lynchburg locations on Wigington Road and Timberlake Road, and telehealth available anywhere in Virginia. Take the first step today. Visit centralvirginiacounseling.com.
Hey, Hokie fans, are you still getting your Hokie sports news from other outlets? Or even worse, the newspaper? Well, you're missing out. Tech Sideline has assembled the largest and most talented team to ever cover Virginia Tech athletics. If you want Hokie sports coverage that is second to none and will make you the smartest fan at the tailgate, subscribe to TechSideline.com for just $12 a month or $120 a year. Tech Sideline, all Hokie, all the time, period. Subscribe today at TechSideline.com.
Yes, you want this winter to continue. The frozen temperatures, the snow, the sleet, the ice, and everything else. At InsaneRadioDeals.com at least, because now through March 2nd, it's time to let it go, let go, let go of every item. Now through March 2nd, 3-2. Get 32% off the list price of every item at InsaneRadioDeals.com. It's simple. Enter the promo code FROZEN at checkout now through March 2nd at InsaneRadioDeals.com for 32% off the list price of every item. Normal restrictions still apply.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
It may sound a little harsh, but is it reasonable and fair? Backhanded compliment as it might sound. That's where we begin.
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth, a look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with the JMU Dukes.
DNRonline.com and Shane_DNR Sports for Shane Metlin, who's with us here in the Fast Lane. Shane, good to be speaking with you. We appreciate your making some time for us today. As always, here in the Fast Lane, JMU men's basketball. Is it harsh to say that two teams that were kind of mid-level, about 500, is what you expect when they met? And they delivered a good basketball game. May not have been the prettiest, but 73-71, the Dukes over Toledo delivered on teams that seemed like they were pretty even entering, and it bore out that way over at the AUBC Center.
Yeah, fairly evenly matched, although I think Toledo was probably reasonably highly ranked, higher ranked than JMU with, as far as, net, KenPom, things like that. So it's a fairly solid win for JMU too. I don't know if it's even more frustrating that they've shown they're able to beat some fairly good teams but haven't really ever followed those games up with any kind of winning streak.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is it's just a level of inconsistency. How much is that read out in the fact that, you had pretty diversified scoring for the Dukes. Almost the entire roster contributed with points, but you only have two in double figures, and it seems like it ping-pongs from who gets those and, frankly, who gets a significant chunk of minutes.
Yeah, part of that's been the injuries lately. Justin McBride pulls back. He played well at the beginning of the game, and he gets in a little bit of foul trouble, so he doesn't put up big numbers. He ends up hitting the game-winning free throws. But, it just has kind of ping-ponged a little bit. You wonder where the consistency is going to be. I think, a guy like Cliff Davis has been there fairly consistently, but, he's a three-point shooter, so he's bound to have a game or two where he's just not making them from deep. So, yeah, you don't always know exactly where it's going to come from with this JMU team.
Shane Metlin with us in the Fast Lane. He's at Shane_DNR Sports. That's Twitter. And DNRonline.com are the ways to connect with him. Women's basketball. Nobody wants to lose, especially when it's once again to Arkansas State, but they've now won 4 in a row since then. Are we at a spot where maybe that was a blessing in disguise and jump-started the Duke season?
Yeah, possibly, but they've gone 6 of 7. Kind of surrounding the Arkansas State game. So they really played one bad half. So I don't know exactly, whether, the turnaround kind of began before that or if it was a little bit of a wake-up call. They've definitely finished games on the road more recently than when they had the little struggle at Arkansas State and in some earlier Sun Belt games. And they've been just really dominant at home, too. So if they can continue to play well on the road, because they have a few of those coming up, they have a chance to move up the standings.
If you read one article at DNRonline.com this week from Shane Metlin of DNRonline.com, JMU Dukes writer, it's about the department restructure paying off for JMU athletics across the board. Are they more efficient than they've been under Matt Roan as he has made those changes?
Yeah, I think we're seeing it to a degree. I wasn't really even sure. They announce these kinds of things, and you're never quite sure exactly what it means, if it's just, kind of, somebody wanting to put their stamp on things or renaming the same thing. But the thing that jumped out to me was that when Billy Napier had his press conference the other day to talk about their signing class and what the transition was like, he, independently, not knowing I was writing anything about that, the, department, restructuring, he talked about how organized everything was as far as, having people ready to help them with visits, get them moved into offices, everything that kind of had to happen for them to be able to sign the class that they did. So, I mean, I guess that's some evidence that maybe it is working out.
Yeah, that's the positive. There'll be more on these type of topics over the next handful of months as we get back to football season. We're like 200 days away from the start of college football. So here we go. Here comes waiting season on that front. But we got basketball and spring sports to get us through, and we got Shane Mettlen to get us through as well. Shane, thank you for your time today in the Fast Lane.
All right, thanks, Ed.
With JerryRatcliffe.com founder and contributor, Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe. Hootie, great to be speaking with you. We'll start off by the Virginia Lady Cavaliers. Outside of the loss to Virginia Tech, this team seems like they have really taken the next steps forward. I don't know if anybody would put them in the top of the ACC with Louisville or NC State or Duke in that category, but how pleasantly surprised have you been, particularly with what Kamora Johnson did yesterday, 29 points, and that the Cavaliers looking like they've asserted themselves as being in that next tier of tournament caliber teams in a must-win type of season for Coach Mox?
Yeah, they entered the season, Ed, knowing that they were going to have to do better in conference play. That's where they had really come up short the last couple of years, even though they had made some strides with the program. But they needed to do better in the ACC, and so far they have. 9-4 in the conference. It's the best Virginia's done in quite a while. And the fact that they've got Mo Johnson just hitting all cylinders, she's for real. I mean, she's already hit the 1,500 career points mark early on in her career. And like you said, hitting 29 points against Notre Dame over the weekend was just another highlight for her. She's the real deal, and they've done a good job in adding some talent around her, and I think they had 3 or 4 players in double figures yesterday. So they're making they're climbing up the ladder a little bit. You're right, they're not up in the elite portion of the ACC, but they're slowly climbing into relevance.
Yeah, they are slowly making the ascent. This is kind of what you expected in fourth year for Coach Mox. There'll be some bigger picture topics we can look at for them in just a bit, but men's basketball, they knocked off Syracuse. Once again, I mean, are we developing a theme here in a good way for Virginia where it may take them a while to get going, like at Boston College last weekend or Syracuse this Saturday, but as they make adjustments in the second half, it sure looks like this team in Coach Ryan Odom's first year pretty adept at getting better over the course of the game.
Yeah, they are, and they're constantly adjusting and making some big adjustments at the half. Usually in recent games, they're not hitting on all cylinders offensively right now, but their defense has picked up, and I think that's one thing that Odom has really stressed is playing better defense because. You're going to have some off nights offensively, and you got to have something you can hang your hat on. And Tony Bennett was a great believer in that, and Ryan Odom feels the same way. The beauty of this team and its depth is that if a couple of guys that are off offensively, there's usually somebody else there to pick them up. Sam Lewis has really come on strong in recent games, and that's been a big help considering that Kari White is still slowly coming back from that broken wrist, starting to look a little bit more like himself. And there's other guys filling in with some nice efforts, and DeRitter had an off day offensively, but there were other guys around to pick him up. And Orienzo is starting to play better down the stretch. And, they were mostly relying on him as a rim protector and a shot blocker, but he's been scoring pretty well lately. He was 5 of 8 from the field the other day. And so, they were joking after the game that I guess Dallin Hall nicknamed the bench guys the bench mob. And because I looked, I was writing a story about that tonight, and their 23 games thus far, their bench has only been outscored 3 times. They've outscored the Virginia's bench has outscored the opposition's bench 667 to 415. So that's not many teams can say that, and that's they've got some guys coming off the bench that could start for other programs. So they have some great depth and a lot of different scoring options.
They do. There are a ton of them for the men's basketball team. That's a plus. Meanwhile, something that's clearly not a plus, there's no way around this, is the Jamal Edgerrin arrest. He's no longer on the football team right now. Was arrested for rape and abduction, an incident that apparently took place before the start of the season. You buying the idea that Virginia wasn't aware of this over the course of the season? Something seems a little bit fishy on this, but I don't have all the details the way you might.
Well, it would appear that that's the case, as strange as that sounds. But, we met with Tony Elliott Wednesday morning, the day before the arrest, to talk about the recruiting class. And one of the questions he answered toward the end of his gathering was how great they were feeling about Edgerrin being back. And Tony was talking about how he felt like that the kid had an NFL ceiling if he can take his game up just another notch this coming season. So that I think they were really counting on him as to being one of their top guys. He was very reliable last season, made so many clutch catches. So I think it did keep them have them off guard. I don't think they knew about it at all. But it is strange that the complaint was filed in late August and nothing happened until here in February, but which seems very unusual to me. But we don't know any details about it other than that. And it's a sad situation for sure.
No doubt. For someone that talented to possibly be putting his career in jeopardy is it's not a good look by any means. And they're not to mention the fact that if the court ruling proceeds the way that many people expect, there's a victim in this situation, and that's obviously much worse and much more severe. Jerry, thank you for your time in the Fast Lane. We greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely, Ed. See you soon.
Now to just for you haters, left hand up the Commanders.
Candy Waller, Madam President of Bowie TV Sports. They were boots on the ground out in California for the Super Bowl week itself. Seawall, we hope and pray you and Corita Parks and your crew have all traveled safely and back to and from that area. As it relates to the Commanders, what, if any, takeaways did you gather, or do you expect that to come into greater focus as we head toward the Combine in another couple weeks?
I think it will start to kind of come more clear in terms of the strategy. Actually, Ed, tomorrow when the Commanders have their press conference with 1 o'clock, Dan Quinn speaks, as well as new offensive coordinator David Blau and new defensive coordinator Durante Jones. Both of them being introduced to us and to the fan base in their new roles. So expect to hear a lot of interesting information about strategy and all that tomorrow at 1 Eastern time.
So that was the next question we were going to ask, and you just, like a pro, put us right on the spot for it. What are you anticipating, or what is going to have your attention tomorrow with those press conferences and an update on where the Commanders' coaching situation lies?
I mean, I think that, so this ties back into Super Bowl week, right? Where in Jaden Daniels, his travels around Media Row was asked about, Cliff Kingsbury not coming back, his excitement for working with David Blau, and what that means for his involvement in the offense. right? In the strategy overall. I think that may be a topic, as well as kind of, the wide receiver group, maybe one, probably another one looking at tight end one. What happens now that Zach Ertz is injured? If he were to even come back, right? That injury happened in December, so he wouldn't be starting the season anyway. So there's a lot to be discussed there. Definitely huge amount of attention on Durante Jones. And after we all saw that defensive Super Bowl last night, I'm sure there'll be a lot of conversation around any movement, roster changes, and what the overall strategy is there.
Questions galore. The answers are easy. They're with Candy Waller, Madam President of Bowie TV Sports, who is generous enough to give us some time today in the fast lane. Seawall, we appreciate your time. We would be remiss if we didn't ask you the reaction while you were out in California, and that you will expect tomorrow as well around the passing of Sonny Jurgensen, the legendary quarterback who had a great run and lived to 91.
Oh, we were crushed. We were crushed, and so many across the league crushed. He is a legend in every sense of the world, in every sense of the word. And that's not just for the Washington Commanders community. That is for the NFL community. Very sad moment, very sad day. John Riggins was doing a lot of media out there, so the news hit him hard, as you can imagine, and others as well. So thank you for asking me that question. Condolences to all that love Sonny. He will absolutely be missed.
Candy Waller, we appreciate your time in the fast lane. Thank you, and we'll be on the lookout at CWallSE on Twitter and CEO Seawall and Bowie TV Sports on Instagram and Bowie TV Sports on Twitter as well for the updates from the Commanders press conference tomorrow. We appreciate your time today in the fast lane.
Yeah, thank you guys so much, and I'll be talking to you again soon.
That does it for part one of covering the Commonwealth. When we return, the new wrinkle, NASCAR, and yes, Tech women's basketball and men's hoops as well with David Cunningham of TechSideline.com. Still to come here in the Fast Lane on the VTRN Sports app and VTRN Sports on Facebook Live and YouTube.
Here we grow again at the Sheeler Motor Mile. It's here, the all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. More brands, more selection, and the same exceptional service you expect from a trusted community partner. Whether you're shopping Chevrolet or Buick, you'll find quality, value, and a team that puts you first. From rugged trucks and SUVs to stylish cars and family-friendly vehicles, the Motor Mile has something for everyone. With straightforward pricing and top dollar for your trade, there's no better place to buy. Bring us your trade, new or older, paid off or not, and see why your car is worth more on the Motor Mile. Plus, with more inventory arriving daily, now is the time to shop the Motor Mile. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Experience the Motor Mile at 3 convenient locations: Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. For over 50 years, we've got Southwest Virginia covered. The all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. Certified friendly staff. No games, no gimmicks. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at MotorMileChevroletBuick.com.
A cool food concept sparks curiosity. What about two concepts at one restaurant? That's even better. Oliver's on Rivermont is Lynchburg's first multi-concept restaurant. Pick items from the traditional Oliver's menu, the 801 Raw Bar menu, or mix and match. And you'll appreciate the consistency of Oliver's new kitchen and serving staff. Two cool concepts in one. Only available at Oliver's on Rivermont. True Balance is staying frozen. And now through March 2nd at InsaneRadioDeals.com, the deals are frozen. 32% off the list price of every item, where we let go of every item, like Crosswhite Athletic Club memberships, Aquatrek Adventures experiences, BNC Sports gift certificates, and Rise Up Climbing day passes or 1-month memberships. So get 32% off the list price of every item now through March 2nd at InsaneRadioDeals.com when you enter the promo code FROZEN at checkout. Normal restrictions still apply.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Well, was he excited just because the outcome was his team winning, or was it more than that?
Yes.
I know the first part is true, but we will ask right now in.
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth, a look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with NASCAR.
Adam in for nice cheek. Adam in cheek. Trey's giving me the skeptical look. It's better than Brian Nolan. So, I mean, what are we doing here? Come on. Or Mike Neff, who will join us Thursday in the Fast Lane, grouchy as he often is. Yes, prayers for us for that. And for you, because I think you're here Thursday for that. Adam Cheek with us here in the Fast Lane. Adam, a pleasure as always to speak with you. Have you come down off of your Seahawks-induced buzz for this Monday?
Well, first, Ed, it's great to be back, and it is great to be a Seahawks fan right now. I am not off the high yet. It was a fantastic way to end the weekend, I tell you that. And no one expected at the beginning of the season, I told everybody the floor is 10 wins. We could win 12 or 13. Did not expect 14. Did not expect the division. Did not expect the conference. Did not expect the Super Bowl. So I am doing really good, and I'm committing to going to the home opener for Seattle next year to see them hang the banner.
Well, that's the cool part of it. Obviously, when you get a chance to watch even more victories, it's good for you. The Seahawks are in that category now. I'm an Eagles fan. I mean, both of them are in that, 4 Super Bowls, 2 championships deal, which is, it's pretty rarefied air when you look at it. Pivoting away from that, though, trying to get multiple championships. NASCAR back to the old format this weekend at Daytona. Between that, the lawsuits in the rearview mirror, are the vibes where you would want them to be, or considering it took an eternity to get the Clash underway, there's still a level of trepidation entering the heat of Speed Weeks, which really gets going with the duels this Thursday?
Well, a friend texted me the night of the Clash, and he was like, there's no better way to end a drought than to bring NASCAR to a place, which, some things never change. And speaking of change, I'm very glad that the format is kind of inching back in the right direction. I'm glad that the lawsuit's over. I'm glad, we're kind of back to, I don't want to say status quo, but I think, things are calmer. But the Bowman Gray kind of undid some of that. But that reminded me of the week at Texas with all the fog back in 2020. But at the end of the night, I wasn't doing anything else that night. I had a good time with it. It was kind of wearing out its welcome by the time it hit like 9 o'clock here. But we're back underway. I'm excited for Daytona. NASCAR just dropped that promo with Scott Eastwood and Marshawn Lynch earlier today with the Black Keys and Freebird, I think, in the background. So, and I watched that and I was like, let's do this. I'm all in again.
Yeah. Well, it gets people excited. NASCAR has its chance to really have, its finger on the pulse for Daytona. And we will get to that in just a moment. This past offseason, it couldn't have gone any worse in the sense that there was a lot of negative news that unfolded. But, all of that transpired, and then you make the change to the chase format, and fans seem to embrace it. Do you get the impression that negativity is still hovering, or that this is a turning over a new leaf and fans can enter this year more excited that this is the NASCAR they want?
Sports fans are a hard breed to please with on every single facet. But I feel like there's definitely a lot of negativity coming out of the offseason. Like you said, a lot of, bad news over the course of December and January. But we're going into a new season. We're going to see Denny have another shot at the title after he really should have won one last year. We're going to see Kyle Larson try to win 2 in a row in his 3rd overall. I feel like we're going to see Tyler Reddick get back on the horse and do really well. I don't know. I feel pretty good about it. I'm all positive going into this. Anyone that knows me knows that I am regardless, but I feel pretty good. I think this is going to be another really good season. I enjoyed a lot of last year, and I think we'll see a lot of unpredictable stuff happen.
Don't worry. That's why we have Mike Neff joining us on Thursday to get the grouchy, grumpy old man perspective to balance you out from frontstretch.com. Adam Cheek is with us in the Fast Lane. Adam, great to be speaking with you. We'll wrap it up on the obvious questions. The first question we can change over the course of the season. The second, it will be in the immortal words of JoJo, too little, too late. Daytona 500 champion, the too little, too late. I'm getting the order mixed up. Whatever. Chase champion. Who wins the chase? Who wins the Daytona 500?
Well, I'll start with the chase, and it's the same person I say every year because at some point I got to be right about it. And maybe it's because he's the home state guy, but I think Denny Hamlin finally gets it done, and I could see him hanging it up at the end of the year if he does that. You'll walking into the sunset championship for the 11 team and Denny. But I say it every year, and it never happens. And last year he got really, really close. So I'm going to try to manifest me finally being right about it this time around.
Oh, no.
500, Daytona 500. I'm gonna stay on what I was just talking about. I'm gonna say Tyler Reddick. I think the 45 team starts the season off with a bang. They come off the lawsuit, immediately win the 500, and I think that team is back this year after kind of an off season last year. They just were not consistent after a really good 24, so I think they get the job done.
Wow. Okay, I like that. There's some good bold predictions in the fast.
You didn't say Ty Gibbs. You don't like that.
I
Stop
mean,
lying.
You
You
know,
didn't say Ty Gibbs. You're lying.
I would have appreciated some Ty Gibbs love or commentary, even though I must admit I have some skepticism, or Trey's probably going to think this is the second option.
Emotional hedge.
Trey's
That's-
skepticism.
That was Ed Lane this morning, folks.
Yes. Well, we'll get to that later this week in the Fast Lane. Adam, we appreciate your time today. Happy start to the NASCAR season, and thank you for joining us.
Ed, I always appreciate it. Give me a call anytime. Thank you guys for having me.
Last but not least, or maybe least, the Virginia Tech Hokies.
David Cunningham of TechSideline.com with us here in the Fast Lane. David, great to be speaking with you. Virginia Tech, they lost in women's basketball 2 in a row, Notre Dame and NC State. And men's basketball, they lost at NC State after a full week off to prepare for it. Are they firmly out of the NCAA tournament picture right now, or both these teams more in the they're in the first 4 out and needing to do some work picture?
Yeah, and first of all, I heard you guys talking a little bit of NASCAR, and that fired me up with Daytona on Sunday. As far as the Hokies go, and I think both of them are in a very similar spot. They both have okay resumes. They're hovering around the mid-40s, mid-50s in the net rankings, and they have games in front of them that would boost their resume. This is easier said than done, but winning games gets them in the tournament. I think they're both slightly on the other side of the boat right now, part of that last 4 out, both of them. But I think both of them have great opportunities in front of them. I think the women's schedule is a little bit easier than the men's, though I think the men's team is better. We recorded a basketball podcast earlier, and we touched on this over on TechSideline.com. I think the Virginia Tech men having 4 quadrant 1 games left all on the road is very difficult. You've got to go to Clemson this week, who's tied for first in the ACC standings. You've got to go to Miami. You've got to go to North Carolina, a place you've only ever won once. And you got to go to JPJ and play UVA, a team that you've only won there twice in the last decade, right? You flip it to the women get Carolina at home. They also have a Q1 opportunity on the road this week at Stanford, Thursday night. That is a Stanford team that just lost handily in Atlanta to Georgia Tech. So I think the women's schedule is a little bit easier, but it's in front of both of them, Ed. They just have to go win games. They've got to probably 1 or 2 Q1 wins for both teams kind of put them over the hump, but you don't really want to play this game again. We saw it happen with the women last year. They were the first team out of the tournament. You don't want to be in that spot. You don't want to chance it, because there's a really good chance come Selection Sunday, someone's going to burst your bubble if you're just sitting around giving them an opportunity to kind of make it happen. You've got to shore up your resume before you get to that point. We got 4 or 5 weeks left, and time's a ticking.
David Cunningham, the real D Cunna, those are his handles. Tech Sideline, the easiest way to connect with them, whether it's .com or your favorite social media platform. David, let's go specifically on men and then women. The men's basketball team, the loss to NC State. How disappointing is it that these losses often feature a lot of the little things? As Mike Young mentioned in the ACC teleconference today, you might have been the one who prompted him, so kudos to you if you were. It's a lot of the little things going wrong for a team where that should not be the case, given the amount of returning production and older players they have.
Yeah, it is interesting, and he kind of shook his head and shrugged a little bit when that was asked about the surprising nature of a lot of the little things, because he mentioned it's a lot of the simple things they work on every day in practice on the defensive end. And I look at that possession the Hokies had in the second half defensively, where after Jaden Schutt knocks down back-to-back three-pointers to cut NC State's lead to 3, NC State quickly outlets it up the floor after a made bucket from the Hokies. Trey Holloman is wide open on the wing, no one around him, and drains an easy 3. This is a team that's top 10 in three-point shooting, NC State. And you left the three-point shooter wide open. Like, fundamentally, that should not happen. I'm sure that was in the scout. I know it was in the scout, right? But that's taking a possession off. And taking a possession off can be the difference in a game, especially in the ACC, especially on the road. And I think the Hokies have kind of juggled all these different lineups. There have been 4 different iterations we've really seen. Hokies without Toby Lawal initially, then without Toby Lawal and Antonio Dorn and Tyler Johnson. The lineup they played when they beat UVA. And then Toby Lawal comes back, so you're reintegrating him. And then you'll see it again when Tyler Johnson inevitably comes back, whether it's on Wednesday or Saturday, that they'll have to change things around again. And I think in that, you have a bunch of up and downs. Neoklis Avdalis struggled in January, came back, he was 5 for 6 against NC State. Who struggles? Ben Hammond, the guy who was terrific in the month of January. He does not score against the Wolfpack. And it's one of these things, Ed, where it's a lot of little things, and when you don't have all the pieces on at the same time, it hurts. And I think they've got the right game plan in certain areas, but a lot of it's just guys going and executing. And I think Mike Young has a talented team, especially when Johnson gets back. They've got 7, 8 really quality players, but they have not been on consistently all at the same time over the last couple of weeks. And that makes it really difficult when you're playing top 15, top 20, top 25, top 30 teams. And they've got another one on Wednesday.
David Cunningham is at The Real D Cunna, Twitter and Instagram. We are at Tech Sideline. Well, our friends are at techsideline.com and at Tech Sideline on their platforms. We are at VTRN Sports and Fastlane Ed Lane, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, however you choose to consume us on W227BG Timberlake, WVGM AM Lynchburg, WMNA, Gretna, Danville, Southside, and all across the Virginia Talk Radio Network and the VTRN Sports app. Neoklis Avdalis, he looked better on Saturday against NC State, or to us, sounded better because we listen on the VTRN Sports app, your home for the best play-by-play, including all the Hokies games. For Virginia Tech, is there enough there now where you believe he's snapping out of his funk?
I do. I think he is. And I think Mike Young mentioned it earlier today that he had been dealing with an ankle thing that started up back in November, I believe. And then he'd been dealing with a little bit of a back thing. And I think having a week off, letting him heal up, get completely healthy, I think he got a lot of opportunities to work on his game last week when the Hokies had an open date. And I think you saw it. He's playing more refreshed. I think that's the player who he truly is. Maybe cut down the turnovers a little bit. Mike Young would probably want him to do that. But he distributed it, I thought, pretty well. He was 5 for 6 from the floor. He saw that first one go in, and he played with confidence. Hokies need him to continue to do that, and you got to get Ben Hammond going at the same time, because Hammond was a rock star in January, had a little bit of an off game. But that's the tricky thing here, Ed. You've got to have all your best players playing well at the same time if you want to beat Clemson, if you want to beat Miami, if you want to beat North Carolina and Virginia. You've got to have them playing well at the same time. Neoklis Avdalis is a step in the right direction, but it's a little bit like whack-a-mole, right? When you played Clemson on Wednesday, is somebody else not going to play well? The last time they've really had all these parts together playing well at the same time in a big-time game might be that UVA game back on New Year's Eve. And they were missing Tyler Johnson and Toby Lawal and Antonio Dorn. It was a very limited rotation, and they won in 55 minutes triple overtime. You've got to have more consistency than that. But I like where Avdalis is at, and I think he's kind of snapping out of it.
So we'll pivot off of that now to women's basketball. What in the world happened? I mean, it's 17-10 Virginia Tech over NC State. Next thing I know, I get in from the car from a church meeting, and shout out to St. John's Episcopal and Impact Church, but we go to St. John's, but our friends at Impact had their grand opening yesterday. Get in the car, and all of a sudden, it's a 32-8 run. It's 42-25. What happened to Virginia Tech women's basketball against NC State?
That's what a second quarter does, Ed. Honestly, NC State shot the ball really well and got a lot of good looks, attacked downhill, generated good opportunities. Thought the Hokies were a step slow defensively, didn't really take Zoe Brooks or Camille Pierre, their two best players, out of the game. And the Hokies didn't make anything on the other end. I mean, you look at the shooting numbers, I think NC State was 8 for 13 in that quarter, and the Hokies were 3 for 16. And when the Hokies aren't making anything and the other team is, and it just really unraveled very, very quickly. It was a 10-0 run. Hokies went 8.5 minutes without scoring, which you cannot afford to do against an NCAA tournament team in NC State. And then the crazy thing, Ed, is you take the other 3 quarters and combine them, NC State only outscored Virginia Tech 57-54. We're talking about a 3-point game, except the Hokies basically turned it off for 10 minutes. You can't do that. And I look at these two games, Ed, Thursday against Notre Dame, the loss where they had 21 turnovers, NC State where they really just didn't play well for a quarter. It shows you have to be on your toes and you have to be playing good, smart basketball for 40 minutes. You can't just flip off the switch defensively because you're not scoring well offensively. And you can't just give the ball away to Hannah Hidalgo on Notre Dame, right? This is a little bit of a process. And I think the Hokies are in a good spot still. They had won 7 straight before that. I'm interested to see how they snap out of it this week when they go to the West Coast.
That'll be something to watch for the Lady Hokies. Meanwhile, for the men's basketball team, good Lord willing, I'll be there watching in person with you at Castle Coliseum, David, because I am slated to join you this coming Saturday for FSU and Virginia Tech. Fingers crossed, prayers up that happens. And in the meantime, sending my best wishes to you and the team at TechSideline.com.
Much appreciated. I'll see you on Saturday, hopefully.
Indeed. David Cunningham with us here in the Fast Lane to wrap it up today. That does it for us. Now on to Freddie and Harry in progress. And,
Megan Duffy Show.
Megan Duffy Show. And then we've got Freddie in here, whatever ESPN Radio has, until we have our doubleheader of college basketball with the big one. Kansas hosting number 1 Arizona. We're in a lot of basketball and a little baseball coming up too as well over the next handful of months here on the Virginia Talk Radio Network. That does it for me. I'm going to get my mouth shut so that Trey can get out of here and get back to living a normal life.
Brooks and Zam Jones, I mean, they can get hot. They're physical. They're skilled. They're smart.